What's up, guys? I just got back from LegionsCon, so of course that means I'm going to have to start filming immediately. We got to pump out some reviews, and it was just the best time with the best people. Incredibly exhausting, but easily one of the best toy-related experiences I've had in just the longest time, and a reason for that is because we got a surprise release during the convention. There were already exclusives, but they decided to drop an unannounced, never-before-talked-about figure at the table and just let us buy them up. We have got the Mythic Legion's VALIANT Knight this time. So this is not just any old Knight Legion builder. This is using Necronominous Knight parts because that tooling was done and they were able to sneak this guy out. So there is all of that updated Knight articulation we've been hearing about for the past year is crammed into this figure, and I could not be more excited about this. I obviously got a couple. I've already played with them at the convention. I could not mess around with this guy before getting home, and it's a pretty wild figure. So I don't know. Don't stop the review there. We'll talk about it more, obviously. But this is cool because not only is it something new in the sense that we're getting new articulation, but the surprise aspect of it was a lot of fun. So we've got this guy here, of course, in our standard Legion style packaging, regular, window box. You've got him there in the window. We've got a little write-up for what these guys are, and then a new symbol on the side, and this is actually like the overall gods of the Mythos world. And then the back gives you that sort of, Mythos write-up and some newer artwork. But this guy's actually pretty interesting because it's not just a regular knight. This is supposed to be like an example of the knights that form around the Castle of Four Sides as the great battle begins. So he could be from any number of factions. He's not necessarily from like one specific thing. So something a little bit different while being a little bit familiar. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Mythic Legion's VALIANT Knight. So again, this was the surprise drop at LegionsCon. He's going to be available online in, I believe, February alongside the LegionsCon exclusives in their single pack releases and the rest of reinforcements. So in a few months, you'll be able to get hopefully a decent number of these guys because this might be one of the biggest game changer kind of figures in the line, just by virtue of us being able to see how much they have been able to increase articulation range pretty much from top to bottom. Generally speaking, when it comes to a Legion's review, I always harp on the aesthetics, how the figure looks, because that's what I like. That's what I'm really here for. This guy is going to be very different because this is a whole new ballgame when it comes to articulation, what they've been able to do just by changing how things are cut. And then, of course, a few other little cool things when it comes to how this guy moves around. So let's get started. Let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. It's still very much a Legion's figure. Like, there's no surprises here, really, save for maybe one thing. So to start with, we have got our head. And I'm going to go ahead and take this head off because the surprise is under here. So this is our new neck. And of course, it's still a ball peg, but it's a hinged ball peg. So this really helps with range, especially on figures that have really, really big helmets like this guy. As much as I love this helmet, it's big, and it does get in the way of itself sometimes. So you've got your tilt, which is crazy, but then when you rock that hinge back, he looks all the way up now. He's going to be able to look down more as well. Like you get him to sort of hunch that neck over. And then, of course, you've still got all your swivel. So there is a lot more range just by virtue of having that hinge where previously it was just the peg. Arms are going to go out at the shoulders, of course. They're going to swivel. Elbows have increased articulation. That's a better than 90-degree bend. And it doesn't really mess up the sculpt or make him look weird or anything like that. You've got your swiveling gauntlet. We've got vertical hinges at the wrist and swivel. Some of the other hands, and there are a lot of hands with this guy, will have different kind of hinges. One of the other areas where things have been changed to allow for better range is the torso, because a lot of this guy, if not all of it really, save for maybe a few little things like the loincloth piece and stuff like that, this is all Necronominous wave parts. So you're looking at like Sir Elijah, and then I believe the pauldrons are going to be from Sir Enoch maybe, but the new torsos are thinner and slimmer to allow for soft goods to go over them so they don't look overly bulky compared to the older figures. This guy doesn't have that. So this will let you see exactly how much range this offers. So he goes backwards, really good. Tilt side to side, still about the same where it was. You've got your rotation, but this is where things get crazy on this guy. So he goes forward like that. There is no diaphragm cut. There is no ab crunch. It's just the ball peg. The only downside is that you might be able to notice, depending on your posture and where you're looking at him from, angles, there's going to be some gappage down there. I will absolutely take that gap over decreased range, because that's just a whole different ballgame here. This, in my mind, almost negates the need, for 2.0 style figures. They're very much a different aesthetic in terms of being thinner and slimmer all around. But the range on this absolutely destroys every other figure we've ever seen within Mythic Legions. I'm so happy with that. That's probably my favorite change here. We've got our legs that go out. They, of course, go out forward all the way. They go backwards really good. You've got your thigh twist. Increased range on the knees, so that's a slightly better than 90-degree bend. But it also looks really clean. Goes back really far. You do have your twist there. We've got twist at the top of the ankle. Really, really good rocker down here as well. And then you still got all that hinge that you're used to. And even that stuff is new down there too. Almost all of this figure, like 80% of it maybe, is stuff we've never seen before. It's very familiar, especially with a familiar helmet on top of it. But the closer you get in, the more you realize there is a ton of new stuff. And along with that is just the most versatile, most mobile Legions figure, especially an armored character, that we have ever seen. I cannot wait to just get every figure with this level of articulation. Now, that said, despite the fact that articulation is going to be maybe the biggest draw for a Legions figure in quite some time with this guy, I do think the visuals are just as important, because of the fact that this is so much new stuff. We've seen it before, we've just never owned it before. So it's not like this stuff is going to be unique to this guy. We're just getting a taste of it now, and I'm really excited to see all of this kind of incorporate its way into the line going forward. There are some familiar parts here, but a lot of this is new stuff because they have all that new cut-in articulation. So you've got things like the loincloth. I think Vorthog has that. The little neck guard bib, that's something that the Red Shield Soldier, he has that. Red Shield Soldier does go pretty well with this guy. He's a little bit on the dark side for him, but the helmet that we got with the new Templar in reinforcements, the Relic Guard, also works with this guy. So you've got some options there. We do have tons and tons of new detail all over this guy, and he is a standard figure. He's not a quote-unquote Legion builder, so he doesn't have that cheaper price point. There is more actual painted detail on this figure than just your sort of base coat of paint. So things like all of this gold trim is painted on this figure, so you've got little hits of gold to pop a little bit. He also does have kind of a griminess to him that is definitely not consistent with Legion builders, so he does have kind of a dark wash that's over pretty much the entirety of the figure, just to make him look a little bit more battle-worn and battle-hardened, because again, these guys are meant to be the knights from across the realm, basically, so they should have seen battle at this point, and they should be a little dirty, and I do like that. But there is a ton of detail in here. I mean, even things like the hip pieces, the upper thighs, the parts that actually connect to the crotch, even stuff like that is new. So you've got a little bit of new line work on some of these parts. There are some things that are very familiar. A lot of the arms look really similar to the older knights, just different enough to be unique parts. The torso is, of course, new, but it looks similar to stuff we've gotten. The lower legs look very close to the Xylernian Guard from the front, for example, but on the back, they are fully metal, so to speak, rather than the leather. So you've got stuff like that, stuff that is very consistent with the look and feel of Mythic Legions, but it's just different enough to really catch your eye, especially when you sort of just start to hone in on some of these details, and you can see, oh, this is close, but that's really different at the same time. So he's going to look right at home along with your other knights, but he's also going to be different and a man apart in many ways. Even the feet are new on this guy. There's stuff like that that's just different enough to stand out, catch your eye, and to be a little bit more exciting this time around, because new parts is always fun, especially when it's a surprise. And this was definitely a surprise when they just decided to throw it on the table and tell us to come and get it. And the nerds came and got it, myself included. So I am really, really happy with this guy. Again, the focus is articulation for this one for sure, just because new engineering is fun, but this also is a really, really solid knight, and I'm also a big fan of this head sculpt. I was really happy when we got this with the Father Christmas, because again, that's where this came from. We've gotten one of these in the 2.0 figures. It's either the Steel or the Iron Knight. I can never remember. But getting this with Papa Christmas was really cool, and then we got it with reinforcements for the other Papa Christmas as well. It came for that Gold Knight, so if you've got the Gold Knight and Papa Christmas V2, you've got a gold version as well, so you can pair them up and have that kind of thing. But it's got, you know, more of that wash on it. It's got some of that gold detail, not a lot, but just enough to make it be a little bit more than just a void of gunmetal-y silver. But this is a really solid looking figure, great detail. Lots of new parts. Again, I can't stress that enough. Lots of new parts that I'm really looking forward to seeing elsewhere, but it's really nice to see it all combined into one generic knight, so to speak, to give us a taste. Now for some size comparisons, let's start with other Legions, of course. So we've got a 2.0 figure here on the left. This is Gwendolyn, and we've got a 1.0 figure on the right, and I wanted to use the Templar Relic Guard to demonstrate exactly how close the color is here. They're very, very similar, so if you wanted to use that frog mouth helm on the new guy to make a newer style red shield soldier, basically, you can kind of do that. But I also wanted to use a 1.0 and a 2.0 to give you an idea of what's different about the torsos. So you can see, you know, this one sort of fills in the belt a little bit more where there is some gap on the new figure. It is minor, but it's what makes that difference when it comes to articulation. So you'll notice a small difference there. Let's move these guys aside. Let's do one of these, since we're talking LegionsCon stuff. Here is one of the D13 demons. Here's the very rare and sought after pink variant. Let's do a Marvel Legends just for, you know, your standard 112 kind of comparison. There's Bishop from the X-Men 97 wave. Here is Piccolo from Superhero, from Dragon Ball Superhero, for some figure arts representation. And let's do one big figure. Here is a Plunder Strong. Big, chunky big, that is. And then let's do one more. Let's do a NECA figure. Here is the NECA Warduke. So of course this guy's going to fit in just fine with all your Legion stuff. Normal proportions, really, same kind of height, just under 7-inch basically. The only real difference is going to be when it comes to that torso. It's going to be a little bit slimmer, but he's going to fit in just fine with anything in that area. Now as far as accessories goes, this guy is, I mean, there's no other way to say it. This guy is absolutely loaded, and it very much echoes what we see with the articulation and like the new engineering with this guy, because this is very much an example of how Mythic Legions are going to be going forward. You know, we've seen it with things like some of the Poxus wave, but specifically the Necronominus wave and All-Star 6. Everybody comes with just a ton of stuff. And this guy is no exception. So to start with, we do get an extra head sculpt, and we're keeping in theme with the Father Christmas bonus items, because when you get one of these, you clearly get the other. So we get this head sculpt as well. It matches this armor. It's got that same sort of grimy finish, but it's also got more of that gold as well. This is not my favorite head sculpt. I just don't really care for it from a personal perspective. I prefer the other head. We do get some pauldrons, and these are new. So I believe these are Sir Enoch's from, he's in All-Star 6. Right? I can't remember at this point, but it's one of those. So these are new. They're again kind of basic. This build's a very generic knight, but they're very much classic knight kind of pieces. They don't really have too much paint on them. They just got that sort of griminess, but it looks good and it fills out this figure. We also get, because I don't think I mentioned this, we do get a new belt, and I don't know where this comes from. I don't recall seeing one that has that little short bit of leather hanging down. A lot of the Necro wave have long belts hanging down, so I'm not too sure. If someone knows, let me know. We do get a lot of hands with this guy as well, just like everything else now. We're getting like a hand pack and a half with each figure. So like I said, you get vertically hinged gripping hands on them in the box. We get a set of laterally hinged gripping hands. We get a set of laterally hinged fists. We get a set of laterally hinged style posy gesturing hands. And then we get a set of laterally hinged grasping, clawing, grappling hands, that kind of stuff. And then we get our weaponry. So he's got the flail. And this is one of my favorite weapons. We don't see this all that often. So you got the golden sort of bronzy chain, silver ball, and then you've got that sort of dark brown red wrap with a little bit of wash on it as well. I always like that. We get this very, very interesting shield. I don't know that I've ever noticed, maybe I haven't paid attention enough, fleur-de-lis in Legions, but we've got them on this shield. And you've got that sort of cream band and that more of that reddy brown color with a gold base. And then even the handle is painted on the back, which is pretty interesting. And then we also get a sword, which again is going to echo this same color scheme. So gold, silver blade with more of that brown and red on the handle. And then the same goes for the scabbard as well, with a little bit of a gold adornment on the top in the bottom. But he also comes with one extra accessory, which I thought was really cool. And your mileage may vary on whether or not you want to use this or how you're going to implement it. But we also get a new neck. And I'm not talking about the one that's on there now. This is a second one. This is a 2.0 head neck. So this will allow you to use 2.0 heads on this body, or if you can find a figure that can utilize this one, that's a 2.0, you can use the new articulation on an older body. I do think it might be a little bit of a challenge to find heads that are going to work perfectly. I think Hadriana's is going to work really well on this one. Figures that have helmets will work well to give a smaller head, but not too small maybe. So this was kind of a surprise inclusion. I was confused as to what this was when I opened the package because I didn't know what to expect. Upon closer inspection, they are a different size. So you get an option to have different kinds of heads. Literally any head you can think of, basically, can be put on this particular body or other knight bodies as well. So again, fully loaded, but more importantly, a good example of what we're going to see going forward to the point where you're going to have almost too many accessories. So yeah, I mean, overall, this is a absolute winner for reasons that are normally not the case. He does look terrific. Like, I'm not arguing that. He does look terrific. It's an awesome looking figure. Really fun mix of new parts. But that's what it's about. New parts and new articulation. And on top of that, the surprise element. It's not often that we get anything like this with Legions. We get the Figure Obscura surprise drops, but this is different. This was a point in time. You're at the convention. You can go get one of these right now, and we didn't tell you kind of thing. And I was so excited when I started hearing the buzz about there's a new figure on the table. And of course, I had to get some. And this guy absolutely has lived up to the expectations they set with the Necronominus wave. I'm excited to see where this engineering takes the figures in the future and just to see what more they can pull out of these while still retaining the pop and swap functionality. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legions Valiant Knight. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.